Recently, there was a man in Syria that was dragged out of his house. He's a Christian pastor. They stood with a knife to his neck. It was ISIS, and crowds cheering. And he said, today you're going to convert to Islam or die. And this pastor knew this is his death sentence. This is it. And he said, can I say a word? And he said, yes. And he said, can I stand and say this word? And the ISIS member said, yes, okay, stand. He stood and raised his right hand to the sky and said, I will never bow to anyone but my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. You can torture me and you can kill me, but I'm not converting. And can you imagine that, Jan? Now,
no,
here's the amazing thing that happened.
Yes.
Do you remember the situation when Jesus spoke in the synagogue in Nazareth, and they realized he was talking about the Messiah, showing that it's him, and they walked him to the edge of the cliff, and they were going to push him off, probably to stone him, and it says, but he merely walked right through them? It's the miracle that you almost don't even see. You know, he just kind of walked right through them. We don't know if Jesus went zing, and they all were freeze-framed, or what happened, but when this man said, you can kill me, you can torture me, I'm not converting, and gave allegiance to Jesus Christ, the man with the knife at his neck froze for about 10 seconds. And then, Jan, after that, he dropped the knife, he walked away, the crowd dispersed, and that pastor is still alive today in Syria.
Incredible story, Tom. Incredible story. You can learn more, folks, e3partners.org, e3partners.org. And as he said, you can communicate with him effectively on Facebook, 830, THIRTY, 838 on Facebook. You'll get a daily update on what's going on in the world of persecution. I want to play a quick soundbite here because thankfully Judge Janine Pirro did a whole hour on this Christian persecution. This was Fox News. This is recently. This was in the last few weeks. I want to play a quick bite here, and she's going to be interviewing a gentleman by the name of Jordan Alette, who's from the In Defense of Christians. Let's play that real short soundbite.
With me now, In Defense of Christians, senior advisor and documentary filmmaker, Jordan Alette. All right, good evening, Jordan. You've returned from Iraq, Syria, Turkey. You've seen firsthand the slaughter of Christians in the Middle East. What is going on there?
Well, thank you, Judge, for having me on and highlighting this very important issue. What's going on there is nothing short of a religious cleansing, sort of like the ethnic cleansing that took place in Bosnia years ago. We met with Christians, like you said, in Syria, Iraq, refugee camps in Lebanon, in Egypt, Coptic Christians there, and over again, like you said, they asked us the same question, and we didn't really have a very good answer for it, and that was, what is the West doing? What is the U.S. government doing? What are Americans doing to support the beleaguered Christian church in the Middle East? And again, like I said, we didn't have a very good answer for that question, because I think first and foremost, whether it's religious leaders, as you mentioned, or elected officials, they don't move unless people are aware and put pressure on them. And that's what our organization, In Defense of Christians, is trying to do. It's trying to educate people, trying to unify Christians, trying to make people aware, first and foremost, that there are Christians in the Middle East. Because let's be honest, I don't think most Americans even realize that there are large communities of Christians that have existed there for 2,000 years.
It's interesting that, 10% of the Coptic Christians, or of Egypt, is made up of Coptic Christians. But all indications are that ISIS is responsible for this. Now, we know that they are this radical Islamist group. Who are they, and how are they being funded?
Most likely they're being funded by, Saudi Arabia and some of these radical groups there. But obviously their goal is, like I said, a religious cleansing to get rid of all, not only Christians, but anything, like you mentioned, having to do with Christianity, whether it's the churches, the crosses, and they want to make it sort of one big Saudi Arabia. And that's not only a negative thing for the Christians there, but that's a very bad thing for the world in general.
If you joined me late, you're listening to Understanding the Times Radio. I'm Jan Markell. I have on the line Tom Doyle from e3partners.org, E3 Partners, and we're talking about the persecution of Christians going on all over, certainly parts of Africa, all over the Middle East. You can interact with him on Facebook. Tom, you and I talked a little bit off air, and you said that this ISIS is probably trying to get a great portion of Syria, certainly most of Iraq anyway, even Jordan. Now, that's a little bit ominous when I hear you say Jordan, pro-West country. I won't say they're pro-Israel, but they're at least friendly to Israel and have been, like various King Husseins over there. Talk to me just a little bit about the fact that they want their hands on Jordan and ultimately Israel.
Well, and I think think, Jan, this just takes away the buffer zone from Israel. If
Yes.
they would get control of Jordan, even though there's maybe about 6 million people in Jordan, that would be quite a war, because I think the West would support Jordan. Probably Israel would as well. But there's no question they want all of Syria, want to push the Alawites, get rid of Bashar Assad, push the Alawites to Lebanon, get all of Syria, get about half to three-quarters of Iraq and Baghdad, but then morph over into Jordan and control that area. And this would be their caliphate. And then, of course, we know they wouldn't stop there. They would try to move forward, try to get rid of Israel, try to overcome the Shiites. So it's an evil terrorist group. They were so radical that Al-Qaeda distanced themselves from them. 2 days ago, we know that 9 Christians were crucified on crosses in Syria. And again, no outcry from the international media, but they are evil. People are afraid of them. And right now, we know of some Christians that are caught in villages. There are some that are not far from Mosul, but they're in villages, and they are elderly, and there are some that are handicapped that have not been able to move, and they are stuck in their houses, and they were told that they tried to come out of their houses, ISIS would use them as human shields. And so this is the kind of treatment that we see of Christians throughout the Middle East. Ultimately, their goal is to have an Islamic caliphate, but they want to annihilate and humiliate Christians wherever they go.